Joining me now, who has dealt with unpassable roads, at least high up in the Rockies, is Colorado Democratic Senator Michael Bennet. Senator Bennet, it's good to see you.
It's great to see you, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
All right, let me start with this. Should Senate Democrats have been surprised that Joe Manchin was a thumbs down on this House-passed bill?
Well, I was surprised because I thought that, on things like the child tax credit, that the White House actually had a deal with them. So I was surprised in that sense, not surprised that, everybody in the caucus has a veto if they want to exercise that veto. And unfortunately, the result of what he's done is that we are now raising taxes on working people in this country at a time when we've cut childhood poverty almost in half because of what the administration has done, at a time when we've cut hunger in this country by 25% because of the tax cuts in the American Rescue Plan. It would seem to me the last thing we'd want to be doing right now is raising taxes on working people. So I hope to be able to have more of a conversation with Joe Manchin over the coming days to try to persuade him to come back to the table and negotiate a bill that is satisfactory to him, but also to the rest of the caucus.
I guess the reason I ask about whether it was a surprise is Joe Manchin's position was well known in July. He was talking about means testing the child care tax credit. We knew he had some issues there. He said his bottom line, his top line number was $1.5 trillion. He talked about the concern he had of inflation. And it seems as if Democrats' attitude was, we'll just jam him at the end. I mean, it didn't seem as if they thought, let's talk with him in July and go from there. Instead, it was this 3-month, which turns out now to be, I think, a big waste of time, hoping that they could jam him. Why was his opposition back in July not taken seriously?
I think it was taken seriously all the way along. Everybody's opinion was taken seriously. And I think that the record shows that nobody tried to jam anybody. I mean, this thing went on for months and months and months and months. I wish that, months ago, the White House had Senator Sinema and Manchin there and said, look, here's what I have to contend with as president. I've got to deal with Russia. I've got Russia on Ukraine. I got to deal with China and Taiwan. I got to deal with COVID. I got to deal with the Iranians. I have to deal with the southern border of the United States. I've got to deal with all of these things. And let's spend the next 48 hours negotiating a deal that we can all live with. I think that would have been far preferable to what ended up happening, which was, I think, a bunch of trading and retrading that, is throwing 10 million American children back into poverty. Yeah. It's disgraceful.
Let's talk about the child care tax credit. I'm one of those that assumes that it is a standalone bill. This can get negotiated with them. Where are you on means testing?
I think that 97% of the people that are receiving this are working, and the bureaucratic obstacles that would get involved with trying to figure out how to get the tax benefit to poor kids would far outweigh any benefit that would come from it. What we know from other countries that have a child allowance like the child tax credit is that they have higher workforce participation rates than the United States of America has, and that's not surprising. This is a country, I'm sad to say, where 50% of people say they can't withstand a $400 incremental expense. That is the result of an economy that for 50 years has worked really well for the top 10% of Americans and not for anybody else. We've cut taxes in this country since 2001 by $8 trillion. Almost all the benefit of that has gone to the wealthiest people in the country at a time when we've got terrible income inequality and very low economic mobility. So I think we should not be making life harder for poor people that are working, trying to support their family, especially at a moment when you see consumer prices rising the way they are. The other issue here that's very important is that a lot of people that receive this benefit are grandparents who are raising their children, and a work requirement would be a nightmare for them.
At this point, do you think it's a better strategy to still try to put together a bill that does a little bit of child care tax credit, a little bit of climate, a little bit of this, or do you now try to do this more piecemeal? You may have to eventually still use reconciliation to pass these measures, but start basically dealing with them one at a time and get to your 50 votes?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that it is not as if President Biden is empty-handed in terms of what he's worked on. I mean, the American Rescue Plan, which was supported by the Democrats, not supported by the Republicans, are the reasons why our schools are still, in session, why we were able to support small businesses and hospitals, and why we have free vaccines all over this country. That was a major accomplishment of the Biden administration. They also passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is generational in its investment in our roads and our bridges and our other infrastructure. So first of all, he's done a lot and we've done a lot. Second, I think we've got to figure out a way to make sure that we continue to extend the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit. I think there's important work in this bill to cut the cost of seniors' prescriptions and to cap it at $2,000, to extend the Obamacare health credit so that we keep prices down in terms of healthcare. And then there's some important climate things we can do. There is no way that we shouldn't be able to get to an agreement here if everybody understands that no one's got a monopoly on wisdom, and the American people are looking for us to succeed here. And I think we can't wait till we get back. We got to begin those negotiations tonight when Chuck Schumer brings together the caucus for a conversation.
Just very quickly, the reality of the situation of Omicron on this spike, January could be just horrendous in our hospitals. It's a tough time to suddenly turn your focus, if you're the Biden administration, and trying to get Build Back Better back together. How do you do it all?
I agree with that. I think the new variant is a very, very difficult backdrop for all of us in America, and we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to how it plays out. And the other thing, Chuck, I'd say is your point about reconciliation versus not reconciliation. This is all another reason why we should be changing the rules in the Senate. We are putting everything into both Republicans and Democrats into these reconciliation packages because we can't pass anything in the ordinary course because of the way the rules work and the abuse of the rules, which does not go back to the founding of this country. It's relatively recent. That would be a great relief to the American people as well, and to bring back a regular legislative order as we're contending with the emergency of the new variant, I think would be very appropriate.
It'd be pretty healthy for the country to see that there are folks on both sides who care about some of these issues that one side swears the other side doesn't care about. I know you and Mitt Romney don't see eye to eye on how to do the child care tax credit, but you both want to do it. Anyway, Senator Bennet, appreciate you giving me the time. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Chuck. Great to see you. Have a great holiday.